You're listening to the CyberWire Network, powered by N2K.
In the dynamic world of enterprise security, identity architects and IT leaders face a major challenge. Growth by repeated acquisitions multiplies the complexity of everything. Multiple IDPs, MFA providers, policy engines that all need to coexist. This can lead to fragmented user identities and policies that create security vulnerabilities and add access friction. Strata Identity solves this. Now you can decommission unneeded IDPs and consolidate the ones you'd like to keep without rewriting apps or disrupting users, engineers, and app owners. Plus, Strata's modular architecture makes it easy to integrate with any identity provider without manual maintenance and coding. Join the ranks of cybersecurity leaders using identity orchestration. Visit strata.io/cyberwire, share your top identity security priorities, and receive a pair of complimentary AirPods Pro. Offer valid for organizations with over 5,000 employees. Step into a new era of identity management at strata.io/cyberwire. Palo Alto Networks releases hot fixes for an exploited zero-day. Delinea issues an urgent update for a critical flaw. Giant Tiger data is leaked online. A European semiconductor manufacturer deals with a data breach. Roku suffers its second breach of the year. Operators of the Hive Rat face charges. A former Amazon security engineer gets 3 years in prison for hacking cryptocurrency exchanges. Zambian officials arrest 77 in a scam call center crackdown. Our guest, Deputy Assistant Director Cynthia Kaiser from the FBI Cyber Division, describes dual ransomware. And Rob Boyce, Managing Director at Accenture, shares his thoughts on security testing of generative AI. And selling Pokemon cheats leaves one man in Japan feeling like he had a run-in with a Scaldaburn. It's Monday, April 15th, 2024. I'm Dave Bittner, and this is your CyberWire Intel Briefing. Thank you for joining us. It is great to have you with us here today. Palo Alto Networks is addressing a zero-day vulnerability exploited by suspected state-sponsored hackers, impacting its Pan-OS firewall appliances. The vulnerabilities, allowing remote code execution with root privileges, affects devices with Global Protect and telemetry features enabled. Following initial mitigations, Palo Alto began releasing hotfixes on Sunday, with 40,000 appliances potentially at risk. Velocity linked the exploitation to threat actor UTA0218, noting data exfiltration and internal network movement, including attempts to deploy a Python backdoor named Upstyle. There's speculation on the involvement of Bien Lian, a ransomware group, and Lazarus, a North Korean-sponsored entity, in these attacks, following observations by VolDB. While the two groups operate differently, there have been instances where Lazarus disguised its operations as Bien Lian's ransomware attacks for intelligence collection. Discussions around a proof-of-concept exploit surfaced on social media, though the cybersecurity community has debunked these as fake. Delinea, known for its secret server privileged access management solution, has issued an urgent update for on-prem installations to address a critical flaw that could let attackers bypass authentication, gain admin rights, and steal sensitive information. This vulnerability, found in the secret server SOAP API, prompted Delinea to initially block SOAP endpoints for cloud customers and subsequently release a patch. Despite the severity, Delinea reports no evidence of data compromise or exploitation attempts. They've also provided guidance for on-prem users to detect potential exploitation. The vulnerability and a proof-of-concept exploit were publicly disclosed by security researcher Kevin Beaumont following a discovery and disclosure attempt by Johnny Yu. Back in March, Giant Tiger, a Canadian retail chain, experienced a data breach exposing 2.8 million customer records, including names, email addresses, phone numbers, and physical addresses. A threat actor has now claimed responsibility for this breach, leaking the data on a hacker forum. Have I Been Pwned has since added the leaked database to its platform, allowing individuals to check if their information was compromised. The breach was linked to a third-party vendor used by Giant Tiger for customer communication and engagement. No payment details or passwords were disclosed. Giant Tiger has informed affected customers, advising caution against potential phishing attempts. Users are encouraged to consider identity monitoring services to protect against identity theft. Nexperia, a prominent semiconductor manufacturer headquartered in the Netherlands, experienced a cybersecurity incident in March where unauthorized access to its IT servers was detected. The company immediately isolated the compromised systems and engaged third-party cybersecurity specialists, including Fox IT, to assess and mitigate the breach. Nexperia has informed relevant authorities and continues to investigate the incident's full scope and impact. Online streaming service provider Roku has experienced its second cybersecurity incident of this year, with 576,000 user accounts affected due to credential stuffing attacks, leveraging reused passwords. This follows a previous breach impacting over 15,000 accounts. Roku states that in fewer than 400 instances, attackers made unauthorized purchases, though sensitive payment information remained secure. Roku has reset passwords for the compromised accounts, refunded unauthorized transactions, and is advising customers to use unique passwords and watch for suspicious communications. To enhance security, Roku has enabled two-factor authentication across all 80 million user accounts. Authorities in Australia and the U.S. have arrested 2 individuals linked to the Hive remote access Trojan, previously known as Firebird. The malware was advertised as a tool for covertly accessing and extracting sensitive data from targeted systems. In Australia, one of the accused faces 12 computer offense charges, with a court appearance set for May 7th. Meanwhile, in the U.S., Edmund Chakmachian, 24, from Van Nuys, was indicted for selling Hive Rat on hacker forums, assisting customers and knowingly facilitating illegal activities, including cryptocurrency theft. Chakmachian, who pleaded not guilty, is due for trial on June 4th. The rat enables unauthorized system access, application manipulation, data theft, keystroke logging, and eavesdropping on communications. Shakib Ahmed, a former Amazon security engineer, has been sentenced to 3 years in prison for hacking 2 cryptocurrency exchanges in July 2022, resulting in over $12 million in theft. Post-imprisonment, Ahmed faces 3 years of supervised release and is ordered to forfeit $12.3 million and pay restitution. Utilizing his expertise in smart contract reverse engineering and blockchain audit, Ahmed targeted Nirvana Finance and an unnamed Solana blockchain exchange. His guilty plea to computer fraud could have led to a maximum of 5 years in jail. U.S. Attorney Damian Williams emphasized the commitment to prosecuting hackers regardless of the hack's sophistication. Ahmed's tactics involved manipulating smart contracts to steal and launder the funds, including using cryptocurrency mixers to convert the assets into Monero for anonymity, while also researching ways to avoid detection and extradition. Zambian law enforcement arrested 77 individuals at Golden Top Support Services, a call center alleged to scam global internet users. The Chinese-run company, located in Lusaka, is accused of hiring Zambian youths under the guise of legitimate call center work, only to involve them in fraudulent schemes over WhatsApp, Telegram, and other chat platforms. The scams targeted victims worldwide, including in Singapore, Peru, the UAE, and across Africa. The operation, which the Drug Enforcement Commission hailed as a major cybercrime crackdown, resulted in the seizure of vehicles, firearms, computers, and thousands of SIM cards. While 17 Zambian suspects were released, the rest, including 22 Chinese nationals and one Cameroonian, remain detained for further investigation. Coming up after the break, Deputy Assistant Director Cynthia Kaiser from the FBI Cyber Division describes dual ransomware, and Rob Boyce, Managing Director at Accenture, shares his thoughts on security testing of generative AI. Stay with us. Today's episode is sponsored by SRM, your first call for cybersecurity and investigations. Threats today are evolving faster than ever before, and since 2005, SRM has pioneered tailored security solutions for global corporations and their executives. Whether it's defending against cyber attacks with their award-winning team of ethical hackers and incident response specialists, or navigating the murky waters of compliance and ESG challenges, SRM's insight and straightforward advice will help you navigate complex risks and emerge more resilient. Their secret? A culture that nurtures the sharpest minds, giving them access to the newest technologies and the freedom to solve problems in new ways, enabling them to craft simple, effective solutions for your unique cyber challenges. Search Your First Call to discover how SRM can help your business. And now, a word from our sponsor, Zscaler, the leader in cloud security. Cyber attackers are using AI in creative ways to compromise users and breach organizations. In a security landscape where you must fight AI with AI, the best AI protection comes from having the best data. Zscaler has extended its zero-trust architecture with powerful AI engines that are trained and tuned by 500 trillion daily signals. Learn more about Zscaler Zero Trust Plus AI to prevent ransomware and AI attacks. Experience your world secured. Visit zscaler.com/zerotrustai. And it is my pleasure to welcome back to the show Deputy Assistant Director for the FBI's Cyber Division, Cynthia Kaiser. Cynthia, welcome back.
Happy to be back. Thank you.
I want to touch base on some information that you all released recently, and this was touching on this notion of dual ransomware and some of the actors that you've been tracking that have been using this particular technique. Can you describe to us what's going on here?
This is a new trend that we've seen over the last year where either through an initial access broker, so that's a person that's already obtained compromised credentials to a system, those initial access brokers are selling companies information, how to get into a company's network in, dark marketplaces, and more than one person's buying them. And then more than one affiliate is deploying ransomware onto a system. Or we've also seen an affiliate who's an affiliate of an affiliate is somebody who deploys ransomware, not necessarily the developer, but pays a fee to the developers to deploy that ransomware. We see some of those affiliates also use two different variants to target the same company. And this is really worrisome. We've seen it across a spate of different ransomware sets. You see Lockbit, Zeppelin, a lot of other different sets, ransomware variants being able to be deployed against a victim. And can you imagine if you're not the victim of one ransomware attack, but within 48 hours, you're the victim of two, or within 10 days, the victim of more? It's really frightening to think about how that must feel as a network owner. And it just hits home why it's so important to do the basics to make sure that you have the appropriate cyber hygiene across your system, that you're doing your endpoint detections, that you're putting the right security in place so that your employees and your credentials can't be compromised in the first place and sold to the highest bidder, and that you're also not allowing a affiliate or some other ransomware actor to come onto your system, because in the end, they're seeking just to exploit any weakness. And it's where we're working as the FBI then to make sure that we can get all the information out that we can about how these actors are doing it, what the indicators of compromise might be, how you can protect your systems, because we want to help protect American networks from these just nefarious actors who continue to find ways to harm us.
Cynthia Kaiser is Deputy Assistant Director with the FBI's Cyber Division. Cynthia, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And joining me again is Robert Boyce. He is the Global Lead for Cyber Resilience at Accenture. Rob, it's great to have you back. I want to touch today on generative AI and specifically this idea of red teaming and how that can apply to generative AI. What can you share with us today?
Yeah, well, Dave, first of all, thank you for having me back. So it's a pleasure. Yeah, I think the first of all, the term red teaming as it applies to AI or generative AI, I think is almost the first stumbling block out of the gate in some cases. So we're talking to a lot of organizations, and as you know, in a security community, red teaming has a very specific connotation. Red teaming to us typically means a point-in-time test. You get some results. You may make some changes based on those results, and maybe best case scenario, you test again to see if you get the results that you had hoped for. I think that is not really how we need to think about offensive testing when we think about generative AI, because generative AI is being so dynamic and changing all the time, building models that are in literally learning. These point-in-time tests are not going to be sufficient. So I think the first thing we have to think about as a community is how to maybe just change the name from red teaming to just say security testing, offensive testing, because it's going to be a lot more encompassing than just point-in-time tests.
So is it continuous testing?
Great question. So I think that's a big part of it. I think, there's definitely a place for the point-in-time test, but the continuous testing is really going to be what's much more important. As you can see these models evolving, there's going to be a point in time where we need to be testing as they're learning to make sure that the outcomes and the outputs that we're getting are going to be what's expected. And that can't be done with point-in-time testing. That really has to be done with continual testing. So that's going to be super, super critical. I think the other point that we really need to think through too is what we're going to test. Right? I think that's going to be another big part.
How do we approach this? I mean, we use this metaphor of these models being black boxes, and I'm thinking of standing inside of a black box and not having any idea where the edges are. How do I know which direction to go in?
Yeah, another great question, Dave. So we think about this in terms of their personas, user personas as it applies to Gen AI. And there will be organizations that will be what we call creators, creating the models from top to bottom, right? So infrastructure, application, LLM, the models running on top of the LLMs, all of that, there will be companies that do all of that. And for them, the testing is super important that they're doing testing at all layers. And the good news is, as a security community, we probably already know how to test about 80% of that because we've been testing applications and infrastructure and data layers for a long time. It's that new layer around the LLMs and the models they're going to be putting on top of that. There's going to be what's really different for us, and even the skill set that's going to be required to be able to test those is going to be a little unique. It's not going to be just the traditional pen testers. We're going to have to think about how to build these pods of skills that it could include data scientists and others who are helping build the models and who understand the models better than just, a security pen tester would. So I think that's going to be, super interesting. Conversely, though, there will be organizations that we call more consumers that will be just buying, the black box models that you talked about, and how do they do the testing? Because they can't test the same way that creators can test. They can't test top to bottom. So they're going to rely on the company that's selling this to them to do that testing. What they can test is are the outputs that they're getting the expected output. So they'll be doing testing more at that the LLM layer, and I think that's going to be super important for them to understand the distinction of what they should be testing, as well as how to test. So I think that's going to be also incredibly important for them. And where they can't test, how do they build maybe into their procurement process or the third-party risk process, mitigating controls on, how do they put more of the responsibility on the creators of those, so that they feel like they're getting some level of assurance that there has been some testing done on that infrastructure, the application, the data, et cetera, prior to them putting it into production.
I think about different kinds of testing, and part of what you're talking about makes me think about like the kind of testing my teenagers do with my wife and I, where they're kind of nibbling at the edges of like, what can I get away with, and how that can apply to generative AI, maybe from the other direction of like, what do I, as a user of this technology, what do I push on? How do I test the boundaries to see where the edges are?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I think there's these concepts of, can we test, how do we poison the LLM so that we can produce false results or unexpected results? And, really the testing that we know of today is holding the integrity of the models so that they're producing the results we want them to produce. But I think what we're going to find quickly as we're starting to explore this area more as a security community, that's just one vector. There's going to be many, many more. And I think that's the other thing that organizations really need to think about or understand maybe more, is that this is going to change at such a rapid pace that we really need to be flexible and dynamic in our approach to be testing these. Right, and changing the way we test them on a frequent basis. We know this is coming. The executive order says red teaming, the 15 times or something in there for the U.S. And then we're seeing, Canada having regulations. We're seeing the UK. We're seeing Australia. We're going to see many other European countries have these types of requirements being put on creators of AI. And so I think, now that the focus is being put here on the security testing, we're going to start to see the evolution of these tests. And we're just going to learn a lot, I think, in the next 6-12 months of the types of testing that really need to be done. Because honestly, I don't think we fully appreciate yet the complexities are going to have to be, that are going to be required for these tests.
All right. Well, Robert Boyce is Global Lead for Cyber Resilience at Accenture. Rob, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Dave. So it was a pleasure.
Managing the requirements for modern security programs is increasingly challenging and time-consuming. Enter Vanta. Vanta gives you one place to centralize and scale your security program. Quickly assess risk, streamline security reviews, and automate compliance for ISO 27001, SOC 2, and more. You can leverage Vanta's market-leading trust management platform to unify risk management and secure the trust of your customers. Plus, use Vanta AI to save time when completing security questionnaires. CyberWire Daily listeners can get $1,000 off by going to vanta.com/cyber. That's VANTA.com/cyber.
And finally, in Japan, a 36-year-old man was arrested for selling modified Pokemon save data, a violation of the country's 2019 Unfair Competition Prevention Act. Detected by a police cyber patrol, he modified Pokemon Violet save data to alter Pokemon movesets and took customer orders for rare Pokemon online. charging up to 13,000 yen, about $84 per transaction, from December 2022 to March 2023. He confessed to the crimes, claiming it was a means to earn a living. He faces up to 5 years in prison and/or a fine of up to 5 million yen, about $32,000. This incident adds to a string of crimes involving the lucrative Pokemon franchise, including a January 2022 incident that saw 2 Los Angeles police officers fired after they ignored a call to respond to a burglary in order to chase down a Snorlax in Pokemon Go. This Pokemon trainer's next quest? Finding the legendary get-out-of-jail-free card. Maybe they can make clever use of the elusive Balbondosaur. And that's the CyberWire. For links to all of today's stories, check out our daily briefing at thecyberwire.com. We'd love to know what you think of this podcast. You can email us at cyberwire@n2k.com. N2K Strategic Workforce Intelligence optimizes the value of your biggest investment, your people. We make you smarter about your team while making your team smarter. Learn more at n2k.com. This episode was produced by Liz Stokes. Our mixer is Trey Hester with original music by Elliot Peltzman. Our executive producers are Jennifer Iben and Brandon Karpf. Our executive editor is Peter Kilpie, and I'm Dave Bittner. Thanks for listening. We'll see you back here tomorrow. And now, a word from our sponsor, SpyCloud, the leader in operationalizing cybercrime analytics. Traditional threat intelligence is a thing of the past. Cyber criminals are stealing vast amounts of credentials, session cookies, and financial data every day, and it's hard to keep up. SpyCloud is the trusted partner businesses turn to fully understand their darknet exposure risk and neutralize threats before it's too late. SpyCloud alerts your organization as soon as an employee or customer's data appears on the dark net, so you can act faster than bad actors to prevent cyber attacks like ransomware, session hijacking, account takeover, and online fraud. With insights from the industry's largest repository of recaptured data, protect the digital identities and systems most important to your business. Get your free corporate darknet exposure report at spycloud.com/cyberwire and see what information criminals have in their hands today. That's spycloud.com/cyberwire.